Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all. It's time once again for the Andy and Rem Show, episode 124. And, well, we've got an interesting sight to greet us immediately as I remove this thumbnail. It looks like Mr. Remington is actually adjusting his blinds still, despite the 10 seconds till airtime warning. What's up with that?
What's up? It's down. Oh.
Well, we'll just sit here in silence until you've got that sorted, I think.
I've done it. You
Oh,
like
there
my
you
two cabinet special there?
Very spicy.
So proud of that.
So not only is there a 2-for-1 cabinet special in the Remington background, but we also have a special guest. Returning for the first time in a couple of months, I think, we have the crazed Scotsman himself, Mr. Stew. Hello there.
Okay, the new.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of a glass cabinet situation going on behind you as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's much less interesting than Rem's.
Only
much
the
less
one
well-paid.
cabinet.
Just the one for now. Until I move house, then there'll be lots.
Cabinet warfare.
The audience can't see it, but behind you, you have something like a door. I don't know, what do you call that? A wall hanging on your door,
A bit of door danglage.
filled with orange stuff.
But the audience don't need to see that. Speaking of the audience, it's a packed house as always tonight, and they're chatting away down there rabidly as we speak. And first things first, you can see from the title of the episode that there are some dice that have been released, and they've caused quite a stir, shall we say. A bit of a dicey situation. So before we even contemplate talking about GW stock prices or anything else, I think we should weigh in on this. Some say it's an abomination, some say it's innovation. What do we think? Who wants to go first?
Oh, cool. Is there something inside those boxes?
No.
Are they like dice balls? Like
That-
you rattle it around and go, Patsy, and then
That is just the dice. So they're
Okay.
D6, but they're in this weird shape that's not a cube. So outside the cube thinking from GW here.
I love them. They're real cool, man. You can stack them. You can stack them up, or you can build stuff with it, and they remind me of playing cards.
So I'm thinking that they're a little bit rounded on the top. You can see a little bit there, even though some of them are standing on the end. It's going to be difficult for them to land that way naturally. For anyone that has a criticism of, well, they're just going to land on the end, and you won't know which number to use, and you'll have to re-roll them. I think they're probably designed so it won't land that way. Probably. But
You know, Andy, they've given me $1 million idea. Look at these dice.
$1 million
$1 million.
idea to steal their dice shape, you mean?
No, it's an added extra. What you can use these dice with. The Remington runway. It's a dice runway. So you roll your dice and it goes down an alley. So you're not going to hit any miniatures or any terrain. What do you think?
Don't they already have those in casinos?
No, they don't. Not like the Remington runway.
How's yours different then?
It's you put it at the side of the table, so like everyone can see it still, but it's not gonna. You know what I mean? And then there's a hole at the end like in pool or snooker, and then the dice go down it and then come back to where you stood.
Okay. Let's just digest that as we continue to discuss these dice. So, Mr. Stew, when you first saw these, what leapt to the forefront of your mind?
I must admit, I was leaning more towards the abomination side of things, but I do quite like that you're thinking outside the box a little bit, and I don't know. I'd like to. I'm not going to buy them, but I would like to, give them a roll or whatever you call it with those, just to see what it's actually like to use something like that. Because obviously, I've never came across dice like that. Like I know dice like that exist already in certain not in kind of miniature war games, but certain kind of old war games and things like from kind of different nationalities and stuff. I've seen them before, but yeah, they're a bit weird though.
Graham in the chat says that they go back to ancient India, this shape of
Ah.
dice, which can make sense. But to me, when I look at this design for dice, I think, is that going to be like a D7 or a D9 or some kind of weird number of sides, where an easy way to do that would be to have it in this shape, and then you're not really limited on the number of sides you can put on it. Or like a D5. Some of the shapes where it's difficult to make a nice, even shape out of them, so you can just do it like this. But for D6s, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Another controversial issue with these as well is that there is a symbol on the 1 skull and on the 6, which is presumably the LUMINETH symbol. Although why it's not a cow, I'm not sure. But symbol on the 1 and the 6, one of the cardinal rules of making dice is that you don't do that. It doesn't bother me too badly with these because the skull is pretty distinct from the 6 symbol. I don't think you're going to get them confused too much. And skulls as being the 1 result, I think we're kind of accustomed to now.
So you would keep the skull as the 1 over the arrowhead as the 6?
It's a tough one in this situation because the 6 symbol, it doesn't really stand out from the pip sides that much at a glance, whereas the skull does. So I would have just kept the symbol for the 6 but made it more bold, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe ditched the skull.
What are those things in football matches where they do that?
Oh, like the big rattles that you swing around your head.
Okay, $2 million idea, the Remington dice rattle. Okay, so you get one of these babies, you stick it on a stick, okay, you don't even have to roll the dice. You just rattle it around like that, and then it stops, and that's what you rolled. Like it?
Warhammer World would be a noisy place.
The Remington dice rattle.
And it's good for babies to keep them quiet, right?
Yeah, you could get them into dice rolling early as well.
I'll give that a go around, but
you don't even have to roll a dice anymore. I'm making life easy for people.
So this is the latest in a long line of controversial dice that have popped up. They had the extremely bouncy squig dice, which I'm sure have taken out many an eyeball with their extra kind of soft bounciness compared to the usual dice that they put out. There was the whole shenanigans with them changing their policy on which side the symbol was going to be on, because there was the difference for a long time between the regular GW dice and the Forge World dice, because some of them had it on the 1 and some on the 6, which is obviously Nightmare Town. And then they switched again, and now with these they've got a symbol on the 1 and the 6. So I would like just some consistency, if anything. But they're not bad.
Andy, what about the Remington Rattler XL? So when you have to roll more than one dice, simply put the extra dice in the rattle handle, and there you go. You could have up to 10 on one stick, right? And you could just read the results going down. And it's much easier to add them up because they're all in a line.
Yes. Let's do that. So your idea is that you want a huge handheld dice rolling machine, essentially.
It's not a machine. It's sort of organic, isn't it?
Device.
You control the spin.
And you think that's better than, let's say, an app, which you could also have in your hand?
Well, Brad's saying, why would you have to add them up? I don't know. You could add them up. You don't have to, but it might be nice to add them up and see the results as well.
Bat Zuka says 6 being a different colour would be nice. Yes, actually, because on these dice here, the fact that when they land, you'll be able to see, like, kind of facing upwards more than one side. Depending which angle you're at, of course, it'll depend on which number you'll be able to see. It'll be dependent on that. But I think the 6 doesn't really stand out enough. When you drop all the dice on the table, you immediately want to be able to pick out the good numbers with your eyeball, so you've got an idea of how many hits you've got, for instance. But with something like this, it's not going to be abundantly clear. Lots of faces will be looking directly at you from similar angles, and the 6 looks a bit too similar to probably the 5 and the 4 if it's in a big clump at a distance.
You know, Andy, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Stu, but there's a word, Andy, in Scottish for you. You know what that is? Naysayer. Don't be such a naysayer.
Are you going to buy
These are
these?
These are lovely dice, man.
How many sets? How many sets can I put you down for?
Is that one set? Do you get that many?
I assume.
Yeah, put me down for a set. I like it. It'll be fun.
They'll probably have sold out after about 10 minutes anyway.
Especially with a runway and a rattler. It'll be even more fun.
Any other Remington dice products up your sleeve before we move on?
No.
That's it.
What is that it?
Mickey says the dice caddy.
The dice caddy? Is that so someone rolls the dice for you?
Or somebody just stands next to you holding all your dice. And you ask for their input on which dice you should use for any given roll. And they'll survey the area for you, think, there's not much space here, there's a bit of a big combat with some fragile miniatures there. I'll give you quite a light dice that isn't going to roll very far for this one.
Okay, Mickey will come up to me and goes, Remington, this is an important roll. You better get the skull dice out for this one.
If she wanted you to lose, maybe.
Maybe the dice caddy could have this case and they open it up and it's got all these different selections of dice. I like it. That's the real pro sign, that is.
I think there's money to be made there.
Yeah, RemCon, you can't enter RemCon unless you have a dice caddy. How about that?
Let's get
Come on, man. You're liven up, man. You're killing me over here. Right,
okay, let's move on. So we'll look at this piece of artwork on the Warhammer community while Mr. Remington tells us what's going on with the GW stock price this week.
Oh, Christ. Well, it actually recovered. I was 55% up. Can you imagine? I sold an army. If you don't know what we're talking about, I sold an army, and with the proceeds, I bought shares in Games Workshop because that's what millionaires do, isn't it? The sort of thing they do. So I thought I'm going to do what they do. And a few months later, I was 55% up. But then in the last week or two, it's gone down by 10%. But then it's gone up by another 5%. So I'm 50% up, basically.
So it's an emotional roller coaster and you're in it for the long haul.
I'm in it for exactly 1 year. I'm going to hold on to them for 1 year because since 2014 or 2015, GW stock prices have had 100% return every year for the last 5 years. So I'm going to put that theory to the test. So will my £500 turn into £1,000 within 1 year? I think that's a pretty good rate of interest. You're not going to get that in a high street bank, right? So why not invest in the hobby that gives back to you?
Stu, have you been inspired by Remington's financial voyage to maybe take an investment plunge yourself?
I must admit, yeah, I've been tempted. Might as well invest in the company. Well, not as if we all haven't been investing in the company in our own way for years, anyway, by buying them expensive models. But yeah, no, I've kind of certainly thought about it. I don't. Well, now I've bought that house, I'm completely skint again, so we'll see. Maybe something for the future.
Yeah, I think a house is more of a solid investment than following Remington's stock tips as he chases a fly around his room by the looks of it. See if he can find this fly. This is top-notch entertainment we've got here. Behind the blind, that sneaky devil. Oh, has he accepted defeat?
I've got a bar of chocolate.
You're going to kill it with a bar of chocolate?
What else to use? I've got a toy guitar. It's a moth, actually.
It's a moth. And you're having trouble killing a moth. They're practically made of dust.
I'll be very impressed if you can kill it with that tiny guitar.
That's the Remington challenge for this week. Can Remington swat a fly with his tiny guitar? We believe in you. Come on.
Got it.
We'll take your word for it. Conveniently behind the blinds. Oh, is he going to show us the carcass?
Oh, nice.
Juicy.
Did I eat it?
Well, you don't want to waste the kill, do you?
I'll save it there as a trophy. Maybe put it on a figure.
On the base. I'm not sure I would advise that.
Grashnak's ravening jaws eating the fly.
An iconic scene, if ever there was one.
Okay, I don't have any Nurgle. I have to do.
So,
yeah, but
Mickey...
still, if you're serious, I will send you a link and we'll both get a free share. It might not be Games Workshop, it might be a different thing, but yeah, I'll let you know when the stock price dips, and that's a good time for you to get in.
Sure.
So Mickey is suggesting some kind of Remington Industries innovation involving fly catching now.
The guitar swatter. You see, that whole little scene you saw there was a metaphor for how little Andy believes in my inventions and how time and time again I prove him wrong.
Let's go with that. So, we looked at this cow fiend quite a while ago, although this one's less of a cow than the rest. Now, this is obviously Teclis and Selenar, apparently. That's how you pronounce it. Which is quite obviously a giant cat bird person cow. I don't know how anyone could struggle to see what this is.
And if that had if that creature had your face on it, it'd be amazing.
It probably did in a previous episode thumbnail. But yeah, I don't like how he's perched on the wing. It just looks weird.
No, it doesn't. It looks like he's jumping off it or he's pointing. He's like done a trampoline. He's about to do a dive.
When you see it from the side, it makes a bit more sense. A bit more, but not much.
Very bizarre. So, the cow elves. They're imminent. They've been imminent for a long time, but everything was delayed for a while for obvious reasons. In these unprecedented, turbulent times. So...
Is it finally coming out, Andy?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, well, how much?
I don't know how much this is.
Is the price nice?
This probably does not have a nice price if you're concerned for your wallet. But have we had any changes in our opinions on these cow elves as the months have gone on and the hysteria has died down a bit?
I like it now. I do like it. I think if you get like a optional basis for the bird thing.
I did see that the starter box for this army was £110,
Yeah.
which might even be on here somewhere.
It's not sold out because they still. Let's
see if it's on the Games Workshop website right now. Let's see. New and exclusive. I think so. Pre-orders. It's not there, but I saw it somewhere for £110 earlier. You get the idea.
Yeah, they had about at least 10, 15 copies in Warhammer World they were trying to flog.
So you get, I think it's pretty much everything in this picture apart from the big thing and tech lists and the other big thing and everything in the background. So pretty much the foreground stuff. Looked like three big blobs that you got in it, from what I could tell.
You get the horseman, you get the spearman, and you get the light of Elfarion. That's it. And then you get the book and some dice. That's kind of it, I think.
There's a scathing assessment of tech lists from the chat. Fluffy Dread says the Cow Fiend tech list thing looks like they designed it in the dark.
They still got that the Realm Lords army box on Alchemist Workshop, and it's £85. Not bad.
Just the book?
No, for the army box set.
Right, nice.
Brad says bring on the Gargants.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those giants were unveiled quite a while ago, and people are salivating at the prospect of snapping those up rather than the cow elves, I would suggest.
I can't remember. Did they show off the giants before the cow elves or after?
After.
Everything's a blur now because it was all so long ago and it seemed like a different time. The world was a very different place when the Gargants and the cow elves were first revealed to us. We didn't realise we'd be waiting this long and they still wouldn't be out yet. So, I don't think there's much to look at on the GW website, because if you look at all this stuff, I mean, we don't care about it. It looks like all kinds of 40k nonsense. And we don't talk about that on this show, except for once every 3 weeks when I lose half my subscribers.
Give this a thumbs up while you're here.
Thank you. Don't forget to thumbs up the video. Obviously, there's some crazy people that dislike the videos on this channel for some ungodly reason.
We're getting a steady 200 viewers a week.
Well, I suppose on the topic of 40k, we have got Stu here, who is now a resident 40k expert, essentially. Is there anything spicy going on in that world at the moment that we should know about?
Not much this week, I think. I think there was a few bits and pieces for Blackstone Fortress that were coming out.
Yeah,
expansions.
I saw those. It's basically 2 droids. You scroll down, Andy, that's all you get. It's like, whoa, part 3, Blackstone Fortress, and it's like these 2 droids.
And it's out of stock.
If you see, I thought it was the same droids that are in the main box for Blackstone Fortress, so they're like tiny, but these ones aren't. These ones are enormous.
Let's give it the Remington 360.
I think if it's the same, if it's the same ones I remember.
Knows what that is.
If he doesn't know what the 360 is, then he doesn't want to know. So
yeah, if I remember rightly, those the big Guardian drones are like dreadnought size.
And they're not bad. They don't excite me particularly.
But this is like the main baddie at the end of the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Some of them anyway. Yeah.
Is there anything going on with the new 40k edition since the starter box fiasco?
Not so much this week. There's been a lot of few bits and pieces that have come out, mostly from the Necrons, the last few weeks. But it's gone quiet for now. I think they've give some time to get the AOS and Warcry and all that kind of stuff out. Show that off first. But 40k is going to be coming back around soon because there's a lot of stuff due to come out that they haven't put on pre-order yet, like the new Space Marine Codex and the new Necron Codex, which is they're going to give that a lot of attention when release day comes around, and a new tank for the Primaris Marines is coming out soon as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the Primaris Marines could do with another tank, just like Stormcast Eternals need another hero.
Yeah, except this new Stormcast tank, Primaris tank, you can build it in 3 different ways because they needed more options. There's also that buggy thing coming out soon as well that looks like a Mario Kart that everyone hates.
Oh yeah, that's going to be fun when people start converting that. I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So in the chat, Steve is asking what I think about a deeply controversial Dead Zone errata that's just come out, which I will cover on Friday on my painting stream, because it's going to be far too in-depth and nuanced for this show time that we have available here. You can look forward to that on Friday, hearing all my thoughts on Dead Zone stuff. Okay, here we go. We've got a picture of the Remington cabinet. The Remington double width army containment system.
That's right.
And you can actually see the reflection of the man himself there, taking the picture, obviously, because it's glass. And it looks like some of them barely fit on their shelves. There's a little bit here that looks like it's kind of tipped up.
Yeah, it's jam-packed, each shelf. I had a whole shelf that was taken up by, those magic spells. So I thought that was a bit of a waste. So then I realised my Gloom Spike Gits could fill 2 shelves, and so could the Ogres. So basically, I've got not enough space still.
Are these all your endless spells on the ground there, ground level?
Yeah, I've mixed some of them up there, and then they just didn't look very nice. But yeah, they don't really look like something you'd put on the shelf on their own. But they are lovely models.
It seems like they should go with the army that they're supposed to be with, but do you even have all the armies for the endless spells that you've got?
I've got the endless spells for the Gloom Spike Gates, and I think that's it.
Is there space in the new?
Ogres, you don't get them.
Is there space in the new place for a third?
Pardon?
Is there space in the new Casa Remington for a third cabinet?
Casa Remington, I like that. Yeah, Casa Remington. Maybe over there on that side. Currently a bookshelf there and a little sort of changing area there.
Is this the official hobby office domain, this room then?
Yeah, it's a little sort of studio thing as well.
So in theory, you could fill it with cabinets all around the edge of the room if you want.
I don't know, maybe it's time to sell another one. But you see, I've still got a bunch of halflings to actually add to that and finish painting. I've finished all my Gloomspike Gits. I've almost finished every army. I never thought I'd get to this point.
Well, if you do decide to sell another army, I'm sure we'll be plugging the eBay listing for about 3 weeks until some mysterious bidder comes in with an offer you can't refuse to send it out to Switzerland or something.
Yeah, I think, got to take nice pictures of them, and then it's not so bad
Yeah,
It
that's
feels
the
so bad.
thing. When you've put all that work into painting them, take pictures which are essentially immortal. They'll be out there somewhere online as long as you post them in enough places. Because at any time, while you're out somewhere, your house could just burn to the ground. You could lose all your miniatures, but as long as you've still got those pictures, take nice enough pictures of them, people know what you've done, you've got something to show for it still then. So take pictures of everything,
Sure.
make sure they're preserved online in various places or on the cloud, wherever you store things. And that way, your work will live
Yeah.
forever.
But here's a conundrum for you. What if you've got more than 2,000 points worth of models in an army, and you can't field all the things you want?
Well,
But
I'll let
if
Stu
I,
answer that one first, and then I'll give my thoughts on it. I'm sure he's got some vast armies there.
Yeah, I pretty much do that on purpose. I just buy all the models that I want, and usually does whatever game system it's for. If it usually does end up coming to more than 2,000 points, then I can just pick and choose and take what I like to a game, rather than just, you know, like trying to kind of just make your 2,000 point army list and then sort of buy no more. I'd like to have more options.
right,
Some
I've got too
people,
So at
many.
least because I've got, like, for example, like the Iron Warriors army that I've got for 40k, I've got about 3,000 points worth of Iron Warriors there. And obviously the game sizes are, 2,000 or less. That just gives me plenty of options.
some people like to collect a little bit of everything in their army. Definitely, I've
Yeah,
done that on occasion. Another reason people end up with that much stuff sometimes, if you look at competitive players, they'll often buy several of something if it's really hot in the meta, as they say, at any given time. And then when the new book or a new rules update comes out and that thing isn't quite so spicy anymore, then suddenly that gets put to the back of the shelf or even sold in some instances. But many people will just hold on to them thinking, well, they'll come back into fashion at some point. Then they stuck up on something else and they end up with just a few of everything. So no matter what happens in the rules, they'll still be able to put out a competitive army. Unless it's GW and they release a new book alongside a new kit with rules for that just blows everything else out of the water, so you have to buy 5 of that now as well. So armies just keep swelling for that reason, I think. People want to try and keep up with what's spicy at the moment.
I feel sorry for anyone that
I
does
like
collect
a bit of everything.
the anyone collecting the Primaris Marines are just never going to stop.
I feel like my Stormcast army's probably been left in the dust by all the stuff that's come out since we haven't played for so long. So all my Retributors and things like that, I'm assuming that they're not quite as good anymore compared to whatever juicy stuff has popped up since.
Well,
I
I mean,
don't
if
know.
anyone's watching around the world, we're still kind of in lockdown. I went to Warhammer World, and it's only the shop that's open, and you have to follow this weird one-way system, and all the gaming halls still like walled off.
It's
So it wasn't a great experience, to be honest. But I did end up buying these guys. See it now.
I might
Trying
be
to make that.
a little bit out of the loop with the AOS stuff, but the last time Stormcast got a big release that I can remember was the Soul Wars box that you and Ryan both got, like and all the kind of Stormcast stuff that followed that. Have they had much since then?
I can't think of too much, but there is word on the street that Sigmar is unleashing another chamber into the realms, which is apparently a chamber, something to do with the soul forging process in the heavens. All the Stormcast that like guard or man operate that have been dispatched down into battle now, was something I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fluff terms, presumably that means they're totally unguarded and Chaos or whoever could just swoop up and just smash all the soul forging vats. But it probably means we'll see new Stormcast as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I wonder if they would bother bringing out new models for the Free Guild, since we all know, they plan to bring back the Old World. And surely the Free Guild and Old World Empire are too similar to really bother bringing out stuff for both, unless they go a completely different direction with the free guild.
They
Like a
won't.
bit.
I'm afraid. I want them to. They won't. But they've done a new Blood Bowl. Some sort of like Empire Blood Bowl guys that look great.
Yeah, they look awesome.
They won't. I don't think they'll do it for AOS. I mean, what they could do for Stormcast though. How about this? So they're not so good at two shoes. Stormcast human slaves. How about that? So they're not clad in armor. They're just sort of, you know what I mean, cannon fodder, if you like. Because Sigmar's sick of sacrificing all his golden warriors. So, you know, what do you
Sounds a
think?
bit more. Sounds a bit more of a chaos thing.
Not really. I mean, if you look at 40k, don't they sacrifice like
Yeah.
a billion people a day just to keep the emperor
Just to keep
alive?
keep the emperor alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
It's kind of like an inflated, really blown up version of the real world, if you think about it. Anyway, Mr. M, we're looking at some elves here. A bit snaky, a bit witchy. Have you just painted these?
This is the new Beast Grave Warhammer Underworlds box. So the one in the middle is one I've painted before. So I've literally just base coated these guys. It's all I've had time to do. Yeah, that's all I've had time to do, man. I've had no time this week. But yeah, they're nice models, really nice. But having one Sister of Slaughter to add to my 10 makes it now an odd number. But the two witch helves, because I had 18 witch helves, now I've got around 20. That's cool. But the leader character, what's the face? Morgwith or something? Yes. Morgwith. She's fantastic model. Just hold her up for you. Yes. Try not to break her. Yeah, that one there. She's splendid. So that's going to get painted nice.
You can
In the
just
coming
use
weeks.
them. You can use them in normal games of AOS, can't you? It's just like their own little warband.
Yeah, apparently. I've not read the rules for them.
So I've got I've seen. I'm sure I've got them somewhere. Like I downloaded the rules to use the the Dark Oath warband that came out like a year ago or 2 years ago maybe. To use them in like regular AOS games. That would be fun.
That sounds a bit more enticing than having an odd number, doesn't it? You just use them as they are, as their own unit, because presumably with your little war bands you're quite likely to base them differently to the rest of your army as well. Since it's kind of like arena fighting kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, look good if they stick together. I've been working on Necromunda. Let's see. Here we go, look at that. Rainbow haired. This one is kind of pinky purple. I've got one in green, one in blue, orange obviously, yellow one. So I've been working on them, and I've been painting the skin as well for some of my other corpse grinders, which are quite different as you can see. So I'll hold these up right to the camera so the audience can have a look. And these actually started off with the same skin tone, which I started painting on my painting stream on Friday, and they've just had different washes on them to reach that point. So some of them are looking very, very dark now. I go for a nice skin tone variety in that faction, and I'll be working on those some more on Friday as well. If you're interested in seeing the progress on that project. Next, Warhammer Age of Sigmar real-time strategy game. So there's a PC Gamer article on it here, which I'm not going to look at too much because there's also a trailer, which I'm going to play with no sound right now so we can just talk over it. But it shows some nice animated Stormcast here. And Age of Sigmar hasn't really been milked dry too much yet in terms of PC and console game content, it's safe to say, especially when compared to 40k, the old world, which have had billions of games, especially 40k over the years. Age of Sigmar is still relatively fresh in that department.
Seeing some dead Stormcast, that looked good.
So I think this is going to be interesting to see whether it's one of the god-awful GWIP games, or whether it's one of the 2 or 3% of amazing ones that come out. Stormground.
I watched the trailer for it, and I was quite excited that it was an Age of Sigmar game, but that died pretty fast when I realised it was another turn-based thing. I think I've had quite enough of the turn-based Warhammer games. Especially since
there is something to be said. There is something to be said for turn-based games if you look at the XCOM series, for example, but none of the GW turn-based games, at least for a while, have measured up to that kind of level. Sparked my interest.
Mordheim is really good fun, but it gets very repetitive after a while. For sure.
I'd liked an AOS version of something like more along the lines of Vermintide would have been cool.
Oh.
There is a 40k one coming soon.
Well,
yeah, so
that's going to be fun. But it remains to be seen whether Age of Sigmar is going to be well represented in the computer gaming world, as it were. It took, if you think about Warhammer Fantasy, over the years, if you assume that pretty much one game was released like per year, the early years, starting with the late 90s onwards, the good ones really, you had Dark Omen, some people like Mark of Chaos, which was maybe like 6 years after that. And then from that point, what did Warhammer Fantasy really have that was considered good until Total War and Vermintide? I can't really think of any. So, very, very... It's generous to call it sporadic quality with the GWIP for these kind of games.
What about Chaos Bane? You ever play that?
No, is that good?
I don't know. I nearly bought it. It looked a bit like Gauntlet.
I'm usually put off because if I don't hear anything about them and then suddenly they pop up on Steam and I have a quick look, I always assume that they're like ports of mobile games, which a lot of them do look like. Just like really cheap, like cash grab type games. It's unfortunate because when somebody actually puts the effort in, very rich universe that you can tap into there, which they've obviously done with Total War and the Vermintide series.
Mm-hmm. And you know what they haven't done? Would be great for the old world. Do you know, like Dragon Age Origins? That, but for Warhammer Fantasy.
Like a big sprawling RPG.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
You're making a lot of choices and you get a band together and you can pick and choose who's in the band and there's lots of little submissions and, you know.
Anything like that in the old world would be amazing. You could do it old school style or kind of retro, like the way Baldur's Gate 3 looks like it's coming out. Like old style but with a modern twist where you'd have a party of adventurers, or like you said, Dragon Age. Or you go like the Skyrim or the Witcher 3 style, where you're just one person typically running around. It's a very rich universe, though.
Yeah, I like the Skyrim idea of being able to choose your race and your class and all that stuff. But the Witcher kind of route would be cool as well if you got to just play the whole game as a beloved old world character. Whoever it's probably going to be an Empire character, but
yeah, with the built-in character identity like that, you have the benefit that they can go really in depth with all the characters and how they interact with you and the surroundings, and the plot can be a lot more developed. Whereas something like Skyrim, you have a lot of options with your character, but that means that they can't go too in depth on anything because there's so little of the character is predefined.
Which character do you think they would choose if they were going to make a Witcher type game for the old world?
I think like Gotrek and Felix would be a really good one.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that would be great.
I think, what about this? A warrior priest, because Archaon used to be a priest, Sigmar, and perhaps you sort of following in his footsteps as a warrior priest, and you could go either way. You could go evil, or you could try and make up for the disgrace that Archaon's brought on your house.
I was expecting that to be a terrible idea, but that actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's just pretty
You'd
good.
have prayers, wouldn't you? You'd have your warhammer. You could assemble some peasants to start with to join you on your quest, and maybe they could develop into knights and wizards and whatnot.
There's a lot of untapped potential there that they don't seem that eager to leap into, because they can just shovel out hundreds of these terrible little turn-based barely games.
Yeah. It seems like they almost have a preference for banging out these like terrible throwaway games rather than just put their effort into just one massive like AAA title.
Well, one of the reasons for that is because people can paint the miniatures with a turn-based game. You know,
It's funny, like
playing it.
I think that's probably like the thing that puts me off the turn-based games the most, is that if I want to play a turn-based AOS game, I'll just play the tabletop game. Same with 40k, I guess.
Yeah, I think the problem is that whoever's in charge of their licensing department only knows how to say yes when they get a phone call.
Yeah.
So I think replacing that person could probably solve a lot of these issues.
Yeah, GW sound a lot like Netflix in that regard.
Sounds fair to me. So, everyone knows what the world's #1 favourite online wargaming segment is, but the #2 favourite segment is coming up right now. So, prepare your thinking caps and get ready.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangle squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
Okay, everybody, look at that. It's clearly a face again, like last week, that somehow managed to stump everyone. So, what the hell is that? It's a face slapped onto a human. What miniature is it? Raphael arrived and guessed. Maxim arrived just in time. So we're going to let a few guesses roll in, and I'll reveal if anyone's got it. But, first of all, without guessing, do either of you two know what this is?
Nope.
I'm going to say it's a Chaos Marauder or Blood Warrior.
Your guess. And I think I should reveal that someone's actually got it already.
Wow.
So Raphael has got it, because it is... Let me just get this fired up. A flagellant.
Oh,
There you go.
well done.
Instant. You know what, I thought it was going to be difficult this week, since last week's face took at least 5 minutes and then I had to give a ton of clues before anyone got it. This one was just instant. So, good job there. So, let's get rid of that. All that time I spent photoshopping the face on there as well, and someone just got it immediately.
I think I must have been the only person in the world to have a devoted of Sigmar army. It was such a cool idea. You know, warrior piece, witch hunters, flagellants, altar of Sigmar.
Yeah. That's definitely one of those kind of like Sigmarite factions they could have done a lot more with if they wanted to.
Big time, man. Instead, they just went with these boring golden warriors.
But again, you know, you never know. Maybe they're saving that for the old world.
Nice.
Could be. So, is everyone ready for the #1 rated segment in online wargaming discussion shows? Does Mr. Remington have his instrument handy? because it's time, the one and only, well, technically it's the second, Forest of Rem. Take it away.
In the forest of red, in the forest of red, where boys become men in the forest of red. Andy with the red. In the forest of red, in red, will red never be the same again? Amen.
I think we get the idea, but obviously half the notes were cut off again because Mr. Remington hasn't submitted the completed studio recorded version of the song yet.
I think it missed out my bum notes.
Well, you can hope that's what it missed out. So, last time on the Forest of Rem, Mr. Remington was led by his one surviving doppelganger, after some of the others spontaneously combusted, through a door. He awoke, minus his flesh puppet, imprisoned in a dimly lit cell. And a hand reached through a loose brick just as we were departing. Mr. Remington, would you like to greet this hand reached through into your cell? Would you like to get someone's attention? Or would you like to just sit in silence and contemplate your fate?
I'm going to just sit in silence and concentrate on my breathing. Because I think that's what more people should do. That's what someone told me anyway at school.
Okay, roll the dice.
Okay.
To concentrate on your breathing.
Just that, it's really good. It's really good for you. Okay, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Here we go. Remington! That's a double 2.
That is terrible. As the young, relatively young, travelling minstrel Remington attempts to focus on his breathing, in fact, he forgets how to breathe temporarily and starts choking on saliva, writhing about on the ground. This causes a little bit of a commotion in the cell block, as a rather large, kind of ferocious-looking guard approaches the cell door, swings it open, carrying a torch, by the way, so it's slightly less dimly lit now, making his way to the stricken and twitching, choking body of Remington, picks him up by the scruff of the neck, and slaps him on the back a couple of times to release the saliva blockage. So you are now held aloft by this rather large, burly guard. The hand that was poking through the hole in the wall, presumably to the outside, is still there, waving at you, beckoning you closer with green claws.
I shall thank the guard and ask him to escort me out of this prison, where I will reward him handsomely.
Guard looks down at you. What you got then, mate?
I've got an ocean of treasures waiting to be discovered.
Is that it?
You help me, I'll let you in on it. How about that?
The guard begins to stroke his chin. However, he was carrying a torch with that hand, and as he strokes his chin, he sets fire to his rather magnificent beard, drops Remington on the ground, rushes out of the cell to the nearest water supply, leaving the door wide open.
Okay, let's leg it.
You're not going to interact with this hand that's poking through the wall at all, then? You're just going to leave the cell?
No, I don't trust you in your hands.
Very well. So, as Mr. Remington exits the cell, he notices that the hand that had reached through the wall makes a little bit of an obscene gesture in his direction, and then withdraws back out to the night. So, you are now standing in a corridor. On either side you are lined with cells, each one of them containing something more fiendish than the last. On one side, you have a couple of pustule-ridden fellows. You have what appears to be a witch with a cauldron, so you wonder why someone would be allowed a cauldron in there. Those are all on the opposite side of the cell you were in. On your side of the cells, each one of them, there's something familiar about them, but they're all wearing bags over their heads.
I'm going to go up to the cell where the witch is and shout, "Witch Coven!"
Very well, roll the dice. I want to see how the witch reacts to this.
Witch Coven by Remington Industries. It's a 6 and a 4. That's a colossal
That's
score.
pretty impressive, actually. The witch looks up, startled, and sense that something, her face expression gives the impression that she recognizes your utterance. She points to her cooking pot, beckons you closer with her long, bony, hairy finger. Do you move closer to hear what she has to say?
Yeah, why not?
Oh. I have words of wisdom for you, Remington. You must bring me a green hand, and I will tell you how to escape from this place and your destiny.
I just did escape, didn't I?
You're still in the cell block. Presumably there are
Oh.
guards around here somewhere.
Oh, God, I've got to go back in the cell now and get the...
Well, you want to.
All right, I'll be quick about it then.
So,
Let's go back. I'm going to pull the hand out and give it to the witch.
as you reach the cell, you find that the hand is no longer there. But there is a small hole, not big enough for you to get your whole body through, enough for you to reach into, perhaps.
I know. I'm going to send my flesh puppet in there.
You lost your flesh puppet.
What?
The flesh puppet was stolen from you when you were deposited in this cell last week.
Oh, right. I don't know what to do then. What do you think I should do, Stu?
I think Stu was temporarily disconnected from the call, but it looks like he's coming back in.
Well, I'll have to ask the audience. Guys, what shall I do?
How should Mr. Remington try to attract the green hand back so he can steal it, or should he just do something completely different? Ignore my advice. Need some audience feedback.
Okay, William Matthews says, set the other prisoners free and start a riot. That's a good idea. Mickey says, find who stole the flesh puppet. Void Captain Bazooka says, sing a song. And Bazooka says, knock.
So
Well, that seems like
what are you going to go for?
I'm going to knock.
You're going to knock on the wall.
The gentleman. Yes.
Okay. Roll the dice. Let's see how well you knock on this wall.
Knock, knock, knocking on a prison door. Remington! 5.
How many dice was that on?
That was the 2d6 by Andy.
For a total of 5.
Yes,
So
5.
it's-
It's a good score.
So it's
5 is-
not that good. So, as Remington knocks on the wall, he scrapes his knuckles a bit. However, a green finger does appear through the wall, doing this kind of motion. What's your next move?
Does he want me to smell the finger? I'll give it a sniff.
Okay, roll the dice.
Hey, smell my finger. Remington! It's quite a good score because it's a low score for this. It's a 3.
Well, Mr. Remington, while attempting to sniff the finger, sniffs so powerfully by mistake that he actually inhales the finger right up his nose, ripping it off the hand. Whichever creature had extended its finger through the wall withdraws as blood spurts out from the finger stump. So there is now
What do you mean by that? Bit the finger. How does that even work?
There is a finger lodged inside one of your nostrils now.
Ah, okay. Well, that'll do. I'll give that to the.
Very well. So
Okay.
you want to approach the witch's cell with this?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
beggars can't be choosers. I'm giving her something.
The witch sees you approach, and she beckons you in closer. Remington, eject the finger.
Okay. I will blow my nose hard.
Okay, roll the dice. Let's see how accurate you are with this.
Remington. That's a 7.
It's pretty average. So, Mr. Remington launches the finger from within his nostril onto the ground just outside the witch's cell. She's able to reach through with her long bony fingers and grasp it. It's not the whole hand, but I suppose it'll do. She launches the finger ferociously into the cooking pot, at which point, the whole area fills with smoke. It's difficult to see anything, except one of the cells on the other side is mysteriously not smoke-filled. And within, the bag-headed figure removes the covering from its face, revealing it to be another Remington. This adventure has just been wall-to-wall Remington clones. And for some reason, this cell is completely smoke-free, so you can see into it perfectly. It was the one right behind you. So when you turned around, it was the first thing you saw. What will you do? You're standing between a Remington and the witch.
I'm going to hide behind the witch. She seems like she's on my side.
You're going to try and break into the witch's cell and hide behind her.
It's closed, isn't it? I don't know how I'm going to break into it. But no flesh puppet. What if do I still have mutations?
Yes.
Maybe my mutated blood would be like acid on the bars and destroy the cell bars.
So you're going to try and bleed on the bars.
Yes.
Which bars? To the witch's cell?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you roll for that.
Okay. I don't know how I'll cut myself, but I think the witch will like it. Maybe I've got a crush on her. I've got a thing for the witch. Right, here we go. Remington. That's a 6. That's a good score, I think. 6.
It doesn't make it better just by saying that's a good score at the end.
It's situational, though.
So, Mr. Remington bleeds slightly onto the bars. It seems to do nothing, but as it reaches the lock, you hear a mechanism go off. It seems that perhaps this lock in the cell was powered by the blood of Remington. And the door swings open. So the smoke has started to clear now, and you can see the witch stirring her cauldron with a gigantic spoon or ladle. And she did promise you some sound advice, so will you be seeking it now?
Okay, yes, I will say. Okay, I'm going to set you free, and I'll even hold your cauldron. So, what's the advice?
Remington, be set free. You must pass through your cell.
Through myself.
She continues to
Okay.
stir the bubbling concoction, and the finger that you so kindly donated floats to the surface, pointing towards the cell behind you containing a Remington.
Oh, God. Pass through myself. Need. Through myself. Pass through myself? Do I eat the other Remington and pass him through? Or do I walk through him, which would be impossible?
Well, what are you going to try?
Or do I charge? Maybe just charge him.
You're going to charge, try and break down his cell door with your own weight.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, roll the dice.
Pass through. These are just prison cells of your mind. Remington. That's another 6.
Well, Remington rushes headlong into the cell opposite. Doesn't quite break it. He does break something, maybe a rib or two. But the cell is undisturbed. However, the Remington from within pulls back the end of his robe from his hand, revealing a familiar sight. Nigel the flesh puppet. Nigel has words for Remington, which are as follows.
Remington, you lost me, but now I am found again.
It's good to have you back, man. Do you want to come back? Come back to your old mate Rem here.
Why?
Because we had so many great adventures. Come. You don't want to be stuck in this cell opposite a witch.
You make a good point.
With that,
Perhaps you are the true Remington.
With that, Nigel frees himself with a kind of sound from the arm of the other Remington, fires himself through the bars straight onto the hand of Remington. Then, taking control of his arm, swipes the cell door off its hinges. Now nothing is between the Remington and the Remington. How will you proceed?
If he's the real Remington, he'd be able to do a 360. So let's do a 360 challenge.
Challenging into the 360. Okay, roll the dice. Let's see how good your 360 is.
Okay. Remington. That's a 10. There's no way you can beat that.
That's very impressive. Remington turns into a tornado of unruly danglage, travelling back and forth along the cell block, knocking cell doors left and right, releasing all manner of foul, depraved prisoners and potential evildoers. The other Remington is so impressed that, in fact, he takes a seat and begs for your mercy after being in awe of your 360 powers.
Right, good. I'm going to tell my pretend Remington to get into my old cell that doesn't look like I escaped.
The Remington complies and takes his place in your cell.
Good man. Okay, now let's find our way out of here.
Very well. As soon as the other Remington enters your previously inhabited cell, the green hand missing a finger reaches through and pulls the other Remington straight through the brick to the outside. Seems like that hole was far too small for anyone to pass through, unless magic or crushing, like bone destruction, was involved.
Maybe this is another job for the flesh puppet. Let's investigate the hole, and I'll send the flesh puppet through.
You're going to insert the flesh puppet into the hole and see what it comes back with.
Yes.
Very well. Nigel the flesh puppet reaches in through the hole while still attached to Remington's arm, peers around, and then reports back.
Remington, you wouldn't believe what's on the other side.
Can I pass through?
Not this way, you can.
It seems that Nigel has found something quite interesting, but is unwilling to give up more information on it at this point. So there's just a total riot going on now. All the prisoners are fighting each other. There's pustules exploding everywhere. Limbs are being hacked off with remnants of the bars that have been sharpened. And it's just all-round chaos. The guards are getting overwhelmed. Half the cell block is on fire now, all because of that unruly 360. So there are holes in the wall all over the place now, so you don't have to just focus on that one. If you want to try and escape, now would be a good time.
Escape to where, though? You can't escape from yourself. And while all the world is in chaos, I think it's good to stand still. So I think I should sit in my cell and concentrate on my breathing again, and finish the meditation.
Okay, roll the dice.
Okay. Remington, 11.
That's pretty good. Remington focuses on his breathing so well. He's never felt so relaxed in his life. You wouldn't know there's a riot going on around him. And in fact, as he has his eyes closed, the sound starts to die down a bit. And suddenly everything becomes rather tranquil. And upon opening his eyes again, Remington finds himself transported to seemingly another realm. Trees around him, lush greenery as far as the eye can see, a river running nearby. Finds himself at the seat, at the base of a large temple-like structure with many, many steps leading to its top, upon which an altar stands with a mysterious figure perched over it. And at this point,
Ooh.
I believe we shall leave this chapter. How
Nice.
mysterious. Bum bum bum
Very.
bum. That is that for another exciting, thrilling installment of The Forest of Rem, featuring special guest Nigel, the Flesh Puppet, who finally awoke from his slumber. So, I think that's about it for tonight. I think we managed to squeeze a good amount of juice out of those dice as a discussion topic. It's nice of GW to give us something controversial to talk about anyway. Been a little bit quiet the last few months in these unprecedented and turbulent times in which we live.
I
So I
almost
think
forgot. Did they show off the stuff for the next Underworlds expansion that's coming after Beastgrave? Can't remember what it's called now.
I can't remember what it's called, the one with all the terrain.
It's got I think that was a Warcry thing.
Oh.
I think they just showed off like the box art of the next Warband set, and it was like the Lumineth. I think it's a Lumineth Warband and a Slaanesh, like a Hedonites of Slaanesh Warband.
Maybe there'll be
I don't know
more.
if
Maybe there'll be more developments on that soon that we can nosedive into and uncover more in our quest for the truth. So, it's about time to wrap this one up. So thanks to Mr. Stew for joining us on short notice, so short in fact that he didn't make it into the thumbnail for the show because there just wasn't enough time, but I'm sure he'll be edited in there later. And thanks obviously to Mr. Remington providing his nonchalant personality in his quest through the unknown. And obviously because there are people who support this channel very deeply with all their hearts on Patreon. Some of those people pledged to a certain level get extra special thanks. Once I've brought up the show thumbnail, which is right here. So, the following people have earned personal thanks. Extra special thanks to these ones. Tim, Steve, Tim, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All of you get extra special praise for your commitment to the cause. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description. There's a ton of them down there, including special code for Bad Squiddo Games to get a free chicken with any order. Don't forget that. Redbubble merch. And if you follow the Discord server for the Andy and Rem show, you can find out which pieces of Redbubble merch are on a special one-off lower price on any given week. That merch has been flying off the shelves, selling like very warm baked goods, shall we say. And yeah, that's it. All the links, all the money, give to me, preferably. And would you two like to say good night to the world?
Good night to the world.
Good night, everyone.
All that remains is for me to say good night out there, whatever you are. forget, as soon as the pandemic is completely dead and buried, it's time for Andy Palooza, but probably not RimCon because there just isn't demand for it.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about